Okay, let's talk about one of the most common muscle relaxants out there, cyclobenzaprine. But believe me, its story is probably not what you're thinking. I mean, what if that go-to pill for your awful back spasm was actually discovered by scientists who were looking for something completely different? Well, that's the fascinating and totally accidental truth we're going to break down. So yeah, it all kicks off with this accidental discovery. The origin story here is a classic case of scientific luck, really. That's right. This thing wasn't designed to treat a pulled muscle in your neck. Researchers were actually testing cyclobenzaprine as a treatment for depression. But why? Why would they even think that? Well, the why is all about chemistry. You see, its molecular structure looks a whole lot like a class of drugs called tricyclic antidepressants. And those drugs work on neurotransmitters in the brain, things like serotonin. So the thinking was, hey, if it has a similar shape, maybe it'll do a similar job for depression. But as it turns out, that theory didn't really pan out. So let's just trace its little journey. It was first created in a lab way back in 1961. After those antidepressant studies kind of fizzled out, researchers noticed its surprising muscle-relaxing properties. But it took another 16 years, all the way to 1977, for it to get FDA approval, not for the mind, but for the muscles, under the brand name you might know, Flexeril. Okay, so that's its wild backstory. Now let's get into what it actually does today. What's its real job as a muscle relaxant? So officially, it's called a skeletal muscle relaxant, and the key words you really gotta hear are short-term and acute. This is not for your everyday chronic pain. It's designed for those sudden, sharp, really painful muscle problems. You know the feeling, right? Or you know someone who does. You bend over to pick something up, and bam, that awful thrown-out back feeling. Or maybe you just wake up with the neck so stiff you literally can't turn your head. That is exactly the kind of thing this drug is made for. Now, here's where the story gets really counterintuitive. I mean, you'd think a muscle relaxant would work directly on the muscle, right? Well, with cyclobenzaprine, it's a little more complicated than that. It's kind of all in your head. Which leads to the big question, right? If it's not working on the spasming muscle itself, what in the world is it doing to make you feel better? And here is the big reveal. It doesn't really touch the muscles directly at all. It works on your brainstem. Think of the brainstem as the command center, the main highway connecting your brain to your spinal cord. That's where the action is. Okay, here's how it plays out. Your injured muscle is freaking out, sending all these frantic pain signals up to your brain like a broken fire alarm that just won't shut off. Cyclobenzaprine comes in and acts like a bouncer at the door of your brainstem. It basically tells those frantic signals, nope, you're not getting through, and it shuts down the alarm. It breaks that awful pain spasm cycle right at the source. But, of course, like pretty much any medication, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It comes with a very clear set of trade-offs. So let's talk about the good and the bad. On the plus side, the benefits are exactly what you'd hope for. Your spasms calm down, you can move around a bit better, and because it's a sedative, you can finally get some sleep. But that sedation is also its number one downside. Extreme drowsiness is super common, along with feeling all dried out, like dry mouth and constipation, and you might get dizzy too. Now, it's also really important to know about the less common but much more serious side effects. We're talking about things like a rapid heartbeat, feeling confused, or having trouble urinating. Those are major red flags, and there's a really dangerous condition called serotonin syndrome that can happen if you mix it with other meds that affect serotonin, like, ironically, many antidepressants. And that brings us to what is, without a doubt, the single most important thing you need to understand if you're ever going to use this drug safely and effectively. It all comes down to this number right here. 2 to 3 weeks. That's it. This medication is meant to be used for a maximum of 2 to 3 weeks. Not for a month, not for long-term chronic pain, just a couple of weeks. And the reason for that super strict time limit isn't just about avoiding side effects. It's about effectiveness. The research shows there's just not much proof that it keeps helping after that 3-week mark. The acute injury it's supposed to be treating should really be getting better by then anyway. The best way to think about it is like a temporary crutch. It's a tool to help you get over the absolute worst part of an injury. It helps manage the symptoms so your body has a chance to heal, but it is absolutely not a long-term cure for whatever's causing the problem. So there you have it, a really fascinating drug that was born from a total accident, and it works on your brain to calm your body. It's a powerful tool for sure, but one with a very, very short window of use. And that leaves us with one final crucial question. If this is just for temporary relief, what's your real next step to recovery?